Hi, my name is Susie Green and I am the CEO of Mermaids. Mermaids is a charity that supports transgender and gender variant children, young people and their families. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information over what's happened with Mermaids over the last 25 years. I have some slides and I'll refer to them as we go through. So I'm really pleased to be here talking to you from my kitchen for the Manchester Pride Conference, and I hope you find this interesting. So the first slide is obviously just my intro slide. The second slide is of a young person and it's about tell your story. And the reason that we wanted to put this in here is because very much young people are full front and central on everything that we do. We talk to young people, we involve young people, and it's really important to us to make sure that their voices are heard within the charity. Slide number 3 is really an introduction. It talks about Mermaids over the last 25 years and discusses the fact in 1995 a group of parents who attended the Tavistock and Portman Gender Identity Service were encouraged by the director at that time to start a support group for parents, and that was the beginning of Mermaids. The next slide, I'll give you just a second to have a quick look over it, but this is a milestone slide. So in 1995, the support group was formed, and then in 1999, the charity was registered. Really, then over the next sort of 10 years, nothing much happened. I joined Mermaids 20 years ago when I phoned up about my daughter, and I became a parent on the parents group. Then I joined the board, and by the time that we got to February 2015, I was chair. And in 2012, because of the increase in numbers that we were seeing in terms of calls and emails and the numbers of parents joining our groups and young people joining our groups, I had raised the fact that I thought we needed to professionalise. So in February 2015, we became a CIO, a charitable incorporated organisation, and at that point we'd started raising money to make Mermaids more viable as a professional organisation. And then in January 2016, I was Mermaids' first ever employee ever, which was amazing. So by September 2016, due to an application that we made to the Children in Need, we had an additional 2 staff members come online to help with the management of the helpline. And then in January 2017, we got up to 5 staff members because we had a Paul Hanlon Foundation grant and a Department of Education grant in conjunction with the LGBT Consortium as part of our partnership bid. And so we were up to 5 staff members. July 2018, we took on a legal caseworker through the Tudor Trust, and that took us up to 6 staff members. So you can see sort of quite a steady growth over this period of time, but demand was rising all the time and we were still always struggling and firefighting to keep up. In December 2018, following an application I'd made in April of that year, we received notification from the National Lottery that we had been successful in securing a grant for 4 additional staff members to enable us to open more local groups across the country and also to have a researcher to do research with our families. Later on in December, there was a big article in the Sunday Times where that information was leaked with the delightful heading of Child Sex Change Charity gets £500,000 worth of lottery money. And following that, there was a campaign to Dawn, who is the CEO of the lottery, and due to the volume of emails that they received, they then put our grant under review, and that was done on the 17th of December. So the Christmas party on the 18th wasn't the most joyous I've ever been to, I can say. So that Christmas wasn't great. In January 2019, whilst we were still talking to the lottery and answering all their questions regarding the accusations made against us in all of those emails, we then were made aware of, on the 18th of January, of an online stream from a gamer called HBomb guy. We looked at that and discovered that it was on, I think, about £7,000 by the evening, mid-evening of that evening. And it was meant to raise 3,000 or 4,000 for us, and we weren't even told that it was happening. And in the end, through a series of fortuitous events, he ended up raising £250,000 for us. Chelsea Manning got involved, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got involved, and we also had share, retweet the entire thread. So, and the best thing about it was this massive outpouring of love for transgender children, young people, and trans rights are human rights was just a constant refrain on the online stream as we were watching it. So it was hugely joyous and an amazing event for young people and their families to see. And then in February 2019, the lottery came back to us and said that they'd looked at all of the different accusations made against us and they were going to give us the money. So that then enabled us to increase our staff team again by an additional 4 people. And the money that we got from the HBomb guy stream meant that we could employ other people to deal with areas such as our fundraising and our corporate work, and increase our efforts throughout all of our different areas, including add additional operators into the helpline and the online forums. And then we were contacted in August 2019 regarding a potential partnership with Starbucks based around them winning a competition. And in February 2020, that campaign went out live. And we're very proud of that and very proud of the work that we did and also of that partnership, because it was an incredibly uplifting and positive campaign, but also very subtle. And we're now at 20 staff members. But let's be clear, the current situation with coronavirus is a huge concern to us because we don't know whether we're going to be able to stay with that. So on my next slide, I talk about what we do. So we have a number of different support services that we deliver. We deliver a helpline and web chat 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. Monday to Friday, email information and support service. We've got parents and teens online forum, and there's over nearly 3,000 families, young people on those forums. We've got a legal support worker, and we do events nationwide. We do residential weekends for the whole family. We've also got local groups nationwide. Now, unfortunately, the events, the residential weekends and the local groups are currently suspended due to the coronavirus, but fingers crossed, once we get past this period, they can recommence. We do campaigning and advocacy, so we elevate our young people's voices. We have a policy officer who works with decision makers nationwide to try and improve the lives of trans young people and their families. And we deliver training into many different organisations, and we're moving some of that into virtual training to cope with the current restrictions around movement and social interaction. And we liaise with the Equality and Human Rights Commission, the Government Equalities Office, the DV, and many others to try and improve the lives of trans kids and their families. On my next slide, it just is talking about our strapline, which is embrace, empower, and educate. And what we are here to do is to make life better. And our ultimate aim is to not be needed. But I think, unfortunately, we're a little way away from that right now. So my next slide, what I just wanted to give you is a little bit of a snapshot. We started recording information in 2013-14 that we'd never recorded before because the numbers were so low and it was an entirely voluntary-led organisation. We weren't having to report back to funders, etc. But we started to record what was happening, and we put in line some tech in 2013 that then established that we were only answering between 7 and 9% of calls, which is why at that point it made such sense to look to make our charity more professional and actually to have people responsible for overseeing those areas. This next slide really gives you an indication of the sort of demand that we're dealing with and the numbers. So in 2013-14, when we started to put in additional tech so we could actually count what was happening, we realised that we were only answering between 7 and 9% of calls, which obviously for me was devastating to think about those families trying to get hold of us in much the same way I did so many years before, weren't getting the support that they needed. So in 2013-14, we started counting, and the totals for that year in terms of calls and emails was only just under 500. And over the next few years, you'll see that the numbers increased dramatically, including between 2017-18 and 2018-19, they nearly double. And this is sort of continuing, and we're looking at figures in the region of about 11,500 for our current year. So what we're seeing is this massive uptake, and I think this is due to visibility, and I think this is due to young people being able to see themselves. There's more information on the internet, there's more information in general television. We're seeing some positive representation of transgender people, but we're also seeing some really negative things being said, particularly around trans women and particularly around parents of trans kids and trans young people themselves. And they remain in a position where they continue to be invalidated. And we have done several campaigns around vocalising the fact that you shouldn't be talking about trans kids unless you are talking to them. So our work continues, even though obviously we are now in very difficult times with coronavirus, and our all of our face-to-face things have been shut down. But we are passionate about continuing to deal with demand, and obviously we do expect our helpline, web chat and email to increase during this difficult time as well. So we absolutely have to be here for those people that rely on us and need us. And we want to look at doing some virtual work around it as well, so that we can reach people when they are isolated and alone. So that's a little bit of a breakdown of who we are, what we do and why we do it. Myself personally, I have a transgender daughter who is 27 in July. So for me, this has been based around making her life better, and then actually seeing the level of injustice and prejudice that trans kids face and the things that she went through simply to be herself. So last slide, just saying my thanks. My thanks for listening to me, and for Manchester Pride Conference, being moved to being digital rather than face-to-face. And hopefully you've learned a bit about who we are and why we do what we do. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.